What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my tiny garage. My name is Jared, and we are back around to the generator here again. This would be, I guess, kind of a part two or a follow-up to the first video. If you missed that one, I will leave a link here. You can go check that one out. In the first video, though, we did get this thing to run, and it actually ran okay. We could tell, though, it was kind of old and having some trouble keeping up on our load testing. It was only maybe putting out, I'd say, like 50% power or something like that. It wasn't really up to snuff and not really doing everything it should. So in this video here, I thought I would take a moment and go through this engine a little bit. We're not going to tear into it here today, but I do want to showcase two different methods of testing the health of an engine to kind of see what's wrong with it and to kind of get an idea of the overall health and where you might go with a repair such as this, so you know exactly what the problem is. So the two methods that we're going to be doing in this video here are a compression test, and then we'll be also doing a more in-depth leak down test, which I will get into that and how that works here in just a minute. But let's go ahead and start with the compression test. So I'm going to get this over a little bit closer to the camera for you guys to see. We'll pop out the spark plug and we'll hook that compressor tester up and see what kind of compression we're actually getting on the engine. Our plug actually looks pretty decent for running for that little bit of a time. There is a little bit of white carbon buildup on it, but for the little bit that we did run it, doesn't look actually bad. Doesn't look like it was majorly burning oil or anything like that, so that's a positive thing. I will put some affiliate links down in the description below if you're interested in getting either the leak down tester or the compression tester that I'm using in this video. We're going to start with the compression tester, and one of the more important things to note when you get a compression tester is you can kind of get two different kinds, and the most common kind that you'll find is just an open circuit. You'll just get a reading and that'll be it. If you plan to be using this on a 2-cycle engine because of the way they work, you want one with a Schrader valve, and a Schrader valve is just the little tire core valve they use on tires in the center. And what that does is that keeps the pressure in the line, so that way you get a consistent reading on your dial. So as you're pumping your knot, your compression isn't bouncing from 0 to whatever number. It will actually hold that number as you're spinning the engine over. So that's the kind you want, and I will leave a link below to that if you want to check that out. But yes, just if you plan on doing 2-cycle engines, just get the one with the Schrader valve in. That way you can use it on 4-cycle or in 2-cycle. You can just buy it once and then you're done with that. So let's go ahead and get this hooked up to the engine. The way this works, then you got an O-ring on here that seals, and then of course your Schrader valve in there. So we thread that into the spark plug hole, and we don't need to wrench this down or anything. We just need to get it fairly tight, fairly snug, so it keeps pressure up there. From there, mine has a quick connect. We can just simply quick connect on our gauge, and there we go. We are ready to read. So I'm going to spin this engine over with the drill to get our pressure up a little bit easier, since our rope broke and we never replaced that in the last video. So I'm just going to use the drill to spin this over, and let's see what we can get. We want to aim for somewhere around 100 psi would be ideal, nothing less than 80. 60 is pretty poor, but I mean it will start on that. But let's just spin it over and see what we can actually get out of it. Yeah, so there we go. So we got barely 50. We got barely 50 out of that. So we got this reset. Let's go ahead and try this again and see if we can get any better pressure out of it. So again, we got barely 50 psi. So that right there would indicate that our engine's not healthy. Our engine's not doing very well. And we definitely have some internal problems. Now the question becomes, well, what is those internal problems? So our leak down test is going to determine that. So I'm going to pull that out here next, and I will show you how that works. So here's our leak down tester, and again, I will put a link down below if you're interested in picking up one of these. So the way this works is this tells you what is leaking in your engine. So you hook up one side of your dial here, to your air compressor. And you hook up the other side exactly how we did it with our pressure tester right into the spark plug hole. And what we do is we set our piston to top dead center, and we want our valves to be closed. So everything's closed. So there's a sealed unit on the top of the head. The valves are closed. The piston's up at the top. It's all sealed. Now, all you do is you start increasing the pressure from your air compressor, feeding it into the cylinder head itself through the line through the spark plug hole. What that will tell you is a percentage of leak down. You do not want anything more than 20%. 20% leak down is actually that's rebuild status right there. 10%, that's allowable, but anything more than that, you're getting into some rebuild territory. Now, the question is, though, well, what exactly is bad, right? Because it could be our valves not seating properly. It could be a head gasket. It could be the piston rings itself. We don't really know. The leak down tester is going to help us determine that, though. By feeding pressure air into the cylinder, it will show us where the leak's at. So if it's leaking out the intake valve, it will be blowing air out the air filter. It'll be blowing it out through the carburetor. If it's the exhaust valve that's leaking, it'll be blowing the air out through the muffler. If it's the piston rings that are leaking, it'll be blowing it out through the oil fill tube on the engine. If it's the cylinder head gasket, you'll notice it blowing out around the head. And it's a very easy and very simple tool to use to determine where exactly is my power loss being lost at. You know, what's wrong with this engine, and it will very quickly help you determine, well, either your quote to your customer or your next actions in addressing the engine. So let's go ahead and get this hooked up to our engine, and we'll proceed with the testing on it. First thing I'll do is go ahead and attach this hose line into our spark plug hole. Again, we don't need to get it crazy tight, but just get it snug enough that air's not going to leak out around it too much. All right, we got our hose line hooked in to our engine side, so we're going to head and hook this up there, and then we'll hook up our air line to the other side, just like that. Now, let's take this filter off so we can get a better idea if it's leaking out of here or not. We want to get that filter off so that way we can kind of feel the air a little bit better. Sometimes it might be pretty obvious if it's really blowing really hard, but I like to remove all the limitations. Okay, so the next is very important. We have a bar on the front of the engine, so we need to find top dead center, of course. And we'll know that when the air stops blowing out of our sides. So I'm going to also go ahead and open up this oil tube as well, because that'll probably end up blowing off the top if we don't. We don't want to pressurize the cylinder just to have it do that. So we're going to go ahead and start to increase our pressure now. So we'll start increasing our dial till we get some air moving through. So right now we're putting 10 pounds through, and we can hear it. You can hear that in the microphone. It's coming out of our exhaust valve right now. So let's spin this engine over. Okay, so now we got air coming out of our intake side. Do that. So we're going to keep going until it's all shut off. So it should be right there. Keep going around a little bit more. I can tell we definitely got some leaks on this. Trying to find that sweet spot where it shuts off the airflow. definitely got, there we go. So I'm right in about there. It sounds like it's might be okay. Okay. All right, so now we're going to start increasing the air pressure. Now it's important to note the engine may spin around, of course, as you're doing this. So you want to have a nice, good hold on that flywheel. So we're going to increase the pressure up. We're up to 50 pounds. So right there's 80 pounds. I don't really feel anything coming out of the oil port, but we definitely have a lot of airflow coming out through the intake and exhaust. Let's see if we can do better on this. Let's see if we can turn this slowly. We should be nearing where it's going to close. And it goes right back open again. Okay, so I don't know if you can see these dials very well, but we're putting about 80 psi into the engine right now, and right there, the highest I can get it so far is it's only going to hold about 35. Oh, there we go. Okay, so right there I got the bar pinched in the table. It looks like we can almost hit, let me back my pressure down a little bit. So right there, so we're pushing 80 psi into it. And we're holding 70. So right there at our best time, we're holding 70 psi out of 80. But we're leaking out of our exhaust for sure. Our intake seems to be okay. It doesn't really seem to be leaking out of there. There is a little bit of airflow coming out of our oil tube, but not a lot. Nothing I would be very majorly concerned about. So I think our piston rings are probably mostly fine. I hear some other air coming out, some other places. I'm not sure if it's our fitting, perhaps, our connection. But either way, at absolute best, we're only able to hold 70 pounds out of 80. Let's go ahead and back this back off of here. There we go. Now, just in case what I'm hearing is our spark plug connection, I'm going to take this off. We're going to re-hook it up and see if it makes any difference, because we want to get the most precise reading that we can. So instead of using an O-ring on it, I'm going to go bare metal to bare metal and see if we get any better seal doing it that way. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Okay, this all back up. All right, gonna hold down our engine so it can't spin over. We're gonna start increasing the pressure. And we go back up to 80 psi again, and it is just blowing out of the. There we go. There, got to close up. So it's definitely, we definitely have a valve issue of some kind. And I still hear an air leak over here. I'm gonna put a little bit of soapy water. Yeah, okay, so it's our connection. So our connection here on the head is just leaking just a little bit. But either way, we can hear it absolutely blowing. Out of the exhaust. So we're definitely so according to that, I would say we have a valve issue. I'm hearing a little bit out of the oil tube, but most of the problem seems to be within the valve. So let's back off our pressure. I have to hold this here. There we go. So judging on that, we have a 12 to 13% leak, depending how you want to round that number off. So 12 to 13% leak. Well, that's not terrible. That's definitely not terrible. It is starting to creep over our limit. So if our limit's kind of 10%, anything much over 10%, you're starting to get into that territory where the engine needs some attention. Now, it is very possible that doing a valve job on this would fix the problem. And that may be something we want to look into, because it doesn't really seem like it's our piston rings, as they seem to, the oil, the crankcase itself doesn't really seem to be pressurizing. It just seems to be the valves itself that's leaking around it. So that's very possible there, that might be easily repairable. So what did that tell us? Well, that told us that we're only getting 50 pounds on our compression, which is definitely low. We don't really want to see it below 60, and we're definitely down below 60. So right away we have a compression issue. When we took it a little bit further, we found out that we have it seems to be primarily a valve issue. And it would appear as though at this point the majority of our loss is coming out the exhaust valve. So that could be that the top of the head and the exhaust valve area is super carboned up, that it can't get a seat anymore. It could be a warped valve. It could just be that the valves are out of adjustment entirely. All those are possibilities, and we won't really know that until we take our head off. But that wasn't really the purpose of the video here today. The video today is I just wanted to kind of very quickly just kind of show the two different methods that you can use to kind of get an idea of testing an engine. Now, I will say some engines have a pressure release when you're cranking them over, so they will automatically give a compression release. They will release some of that pressure out of the exhaust valve when you're trying to start the engine. And as soon as the engine starts, that compression release closes or stops operating, and then your engine can get up to full pressure. So it's important to know, particularly riding motors have them a lot too, your bigger engines. It's important to know that. So if you use a compression tester and you throw it on there and you get a low compression reading, it doesn't always mean that there is a compression issue. If your engine has a compression release, you will get a lower compression reading. So in my opinion, it's important to do both. If you could only do one or the other, I would do a leak down test, because that tells you right off away. There's no way around that. It will tell you what the health of your engine is or isn't. Two-cycle engines are different, and a compression tester can be much more useful in a two-cycle engine. The leak down test is you can do it on a two-cycle engine, but it is a little bit more complicated, and you have to close things off and check your seals and so on. It's a little bit more complicated of a process. Perhaps I'll show that sometime. But for a four-cycle like we're doing here, the leak down test is pretty well to prove all. It's going to show you where your problems are, and it's going to kind of tell you how bad they are. So judging by what we see here today, if we're getting 50 psi on our compression side, that would indicate that's really, really bad. That's below where it should be. That means the engine really needs to be rebuilt. But does it? Because in this case, when we did the leak down test, we were getting no blow-by out of our oil tube. So that would indicate that our piston rings are absolutely okay. So if you go by the data off of your compression test, you don't really know what the problem is. You know there is a problem, but you don't know where that problem is. So that's where the leak down test is important. It showed us here in this test that we do have a valve issue. We don't really seem to have a piston ring issue. We don't really seem to have a head gasket issue at this point. We don't even really seem to have an intake valve issue. What we seem to have is a problem with our exhaust valve, and that seems to be where our issue is lying. So now going into this, how this would help you, so now you'd be able to quote the customer, a little bit better, instead of saying, well, it could be piston rings, well, it could be this, well, it could be that. Now you could say, well, primarily right off the bat, your exhaust valve has some issues, so at very minimum, you're going to need a valve job. So that would be lapping the valves, cleaning the valves up, readjusting the valves, and that would be where you'd start. That would be where you'd quote, and you would start from there. Now, that will definitely make a difference. Will it fix the engine entirely? Most likely not. The engine's old, it's worn out. Could it use a set of piston rings? I wouldn't doubt that it probably could. And as soon as you get the valves fixed, could you find out that it's blowing out the piston rings? You absolutely can find that out. Air is going to take the path of least resistance, and right now the least resistance is that exhaust valve, so that would be the primary thing that you want to tackle. Hopefully all this kind of made sense. Hopefully it maybe helped somebody out there know the difference, understand the difference, or understand how each one of these could be beneficial to you, methods of testing. They're a little bit of an investment sometimes to purchase and get started, but they are very much of a time saver. They're a very quick diagnostic tool, and they give you a lot of confidence when you're walking into repair on an engine and you're not really sure what's going on. It can really shed a lot of light on things. It can even find things such as cracked blocks. If you're pressurizing, you can get air blowing out your block somewhere. So you could be chasing that problem a long time if you're doing valves and rings and it still just isn't up to compression and it won't run right. Could be a cracked block, and you can very easily find that with a leak down test. So yeah, hopefully that helps somebody. I think that's all I got for this one. It was a short one to do, but not a whole lot to it, really. Just wanted to kind of show the differences and hopefully inspire somebody to give it a try, or maybe answer a few questions along the way. So if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. Be glad to help out where I can. And if you're not subscribed and you like this kind of content, make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any future uploads that we have here for you. Leave a like on the video. It does help out the channel. It doesn't cost you guys a dime, and we really appreciate it. So with that being said, I am out. We will perhaps be back on another video if we decide to do the head gasket on this and get into the valve readjustment and such. But I don't know. We'll see what happens in the future. So thank you guys for stopping by to watch. I will see you in the next one.